Okay, guys. Well, that's awesome. I'm going to go over to my next guest really quickly. I think we have Paul and we have Power Hour Assessments. Paul, can you hear me?
I just had some questions about the Motus Foot. I'm not sure like how deep the foot is or how high the foot is supposed to elevate because from where I'm sitting, like the angle is like this is really only going up this much, not really that much
Sure,
at all. So
sure.
I don't know if that's the correct way or it should be elevating higher.
Good question. So I'd say the answer to your question is first of all, good on you for identifying a, I'm going to call it an oddity. It should be moving your foot up more, provided you have that available range of motion.
I
Okay.
don't have
Now that's a
I don't have any range of motion in the foot or hand.
Um, yes, I think what I'm trying to distinguish here is like control of that range of motion. So if I were there right now with you, Paul, on your right hand side, if I was to move your wrist up and down, you would
Yeah,
be able to. I'd be able to move your wrist up and down. Is that correct?
that's correct. Yeah,
Okay. How about your ankle?
yeah, same thing.
So I could move it up. I understand you don't
Yeah.
have the ability to control it. So that's what I'm
Yeah. You're
talking
right.
about.
You're right. You're right.
So if you have the available range of motion, so the way to think about it is kind of like um, you can move in those ranges of motion, but it's the ability to control it. So
Yeah,
both of
yeah.
those things have to work together.
Yeah, you're right.
So provided you have the available range of motion to go up into that dorsiflexion, sort of the reverse of pushing your foot down like a gas pedal, provided you have that available range of motion, you should be being moved into it. Now, that could be one of two things that's causing that to happen, or both of them together potentially, but we'll talk about them independently. The first of them is the settings. If the settings are not right, and for whatever reason, the Motus Foot thinks your motion is not so big, it won't move you into those ranges of motion, right? That's a safety feature, right? Because for whatever reason, if like, for instance, if I had a lot less available range of motion, like if I had what's called a contracture in my ankle, and I could only move up to about there in terms of my foot up, it wouldn't move me up any more than that because it could potentially hurt me. But if if that's because something is wrong with the settings, then it would kind of give you that false sense of a lack of motion. So we want to look at that. The other thing, which potentially causes the first thing to happen, is something very interesting. It's actually a positioning issue, and I can explain this very easy by just standing up. I'm going to show you really quickly. Okay, so I'm sitting here. Ooh, geez. Of course, now when I try to move, you can't actually see me. Let me go ahead and fix my video here. Start my video again. There we go. Okay, so let's say I'm sitting here and I'm using the Motus Foot. Okay, and I'm actually have my foot very extended, my leg very extended, and I'm like laying back in my chair. That actually prevents me from getting a lot of motion about my ankle. And that's a couple of things. Because the way that Motus Foot is designed, it's designed to be used in a 90-degree posture. So it's meant to be used like this, where your knee is 90 degrees down, and you can actually be moved up and down like this. Okay. Now, if for whatever reason you're more reclined, which means that your knee is more or less more extended here, you're going to have less motion because the Motus Foot's going to basically block that motion. So we need to make sure whenever you're using it, you need to have a good 90-degree bend in your knee. And that way you're able to get up into extension. So the way to think about this is if you have the Motus Foot too far out in front of you, you need to bring it closer to your body. And that will help get that more range of motion.